This is Will Stewart from OnlineChessLessons.net, and I'm going to be taking a look at the 2012 Tata Steel eventual tournament winner, Levon Aronian, and this was a critical round 10 win against Anish Giri. So Giri's playing white, Aronian's playing black here, and Giri is he's a monster. You know, he's growing, and he is a very dangerous player these days. But Aronian, you know, is rated number 2 in the world for a reason. He's not too bad himself. So he's been playing this bishop e7 line, and it's pretty interesting. I mean, I used to think this line was really calm and wasn't very interesting at all. But as I've seen Aronian play it, and also I think Ivanchuk has played some similar stuff in this line, I've really been seeing some interesting ideas. So Giri opts for a quieter continuation with bishop f4. And bishop f4, it is, you know, active. It's eyeing this pawn here and whatnot. But, you know, it's just different from the normal e3 or possibly bishop g5 lines. And so castles. And so Aronian specifically plays this knight bd7 line. So very flexible, you can tell. I mean, black can play this order of moves against almost any d4 opening, and you know, it just works. So moving forward, white is chosen, you know, a not too aggressive line, and so Giri, he waits for the white square bishop to move. Very instructive in any type of, I guess this is kind of like a Slav or Queen's Gambit decline, whatever you want to say, but waiting for the white bishop to move for white, because, you know, if he did this a move earlier, say he takes, white is going to take directly and kind of win a tempo, more or less. But by waiting, now he takes, it's not so easy. So Giri, I think this was all 100% preparation by both players. I mean, just looking at the times as they moved, you know, Aronian is moving instantly, and Giri just the same. So he plays knight b6 to hold the pawn. If a4, just probably a5, and that only helps black. So instead, queen c2. And so knight h5. So Aronian, instantly things start getting a little bit dicey in only 10 moves here. And this is all preparation by both players, I'm sure. So Giri proceeds with bishop e5. So he's just, you know, he's trying to make the knight look silly on h5. And the bishop is definitely active here. So f6. And so Aronian really trying to get that bishop, which would help, you know, his dark squared bishop be a lot stronger. And so knight g5. So Giri playing these moves instantly. I mean, this has got to be preparation. And so, okay. So, I mean, knight g5, it makes sense. You know, white is trying to mess up black's pawns, you know, combine this mate threat. So he's got to take here. I suppose it would have been also possible. I mean, g6, but not really. Seems like black would lose. So, anyway, takes, bishop takes. So this is already this is a mess. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Black's up a pawn, but c4, e6, and g5 all look kind of silly. I mean, it looks goofy. But really, I mean, bishop to f3, and it looks to me like Giri's got a good position here. You know, it looks like the bishop is a monster. Black's going to have to play c6, a little slower. Meanwhile, white's going to play a move like e4 maybe in the future, or the knight's coming to e4. I mean, bishop to e4. He's got a lot of options. So, or he's going to have to triple his pawns with bishop c6. So it seems like white's good here, but Aronian, I mean, the guy didn't even think for 30 seconds here. He just took the bishop. So now he sacked the exchange, and he plays bishop d6 first. So go ahead and try to trade off this powerful bishop for white, and so bishop c6. So Giri plays a nice plan, you know, because his king could have been in some trouble there. So the first thing he does, go ahead and get the queen, you know, to go help his king side and whatnot, and help defend over there. So very unclear exchange sack, but it's starting to look quite a lot clearer. So at first, you know, I was like, Aronian is just crazy. He's always playing nuts. And then I started looking at the game, and I'm kind of thinking, where did Giri go wrong? You know, how did he lose this game? And it was really quite tough, almost impossible to pinpoint any one point where Giri messed up, you know, where he just blatantly made a mistake. So d6, And now knight to e4. Knight e4, you know, this makes sense. I mean, Gary's trying to provoke a weakness. h6 maybe, I mean, provoke some you know, weak light squares over here. That makes sense. And so now he follows it up with queen g3. So trying to provoke this pawn to push to d5. Or at the very least, I mean, rook d8, you know, the rook is going to be tied down and black's queen. You know, white would have a good position. I mean, yes, I mean, it's difficult for white to really create a lot of active counterplay here. But at the same time, you know, black's pieces are kind of tied up. So I think white would probably be doing okay. But Aronian is just too good. So first he plays d5. And now rook to f8. And maybe, you know, rook f8, I mean, this is just money. How Aronian played here is just, his plan was just too good. So rook to f8. Now it stops at 4. So this is just, I mean, maybe this was white's best option, is to sack another pawn, but then you got to think the endgame is not going to be that fun. I mean, 2 pawns for the exchange. This bishop is going to find its way out of the pawn chain. The knight is just going to be fine. I mean, I don't know, but I think this could have been white's best chance, because at least he's going to get activity for his pieces, for his rooks on the e file. You gotta open a file for the rooks. But rook f8, I mean, that's not an easy decision to take. Giri plays knight to e2. He thought for, you know, here he started using a lot of time in the opening, so this was definitely not, you know, involved in his preparation. Whereas white, I mean, look at Aronian. He's used like 10 minutes to Gary's, you know, near hour. So, you know, moving forward, rook f8, now knight e2, and this might have been where Gary kind of messed up as well. I mean, knight e2, I think maybe rook here with the idea of playing e4, just anything to just open the position. I mean, it's just so tough for white to get an active plan. I mean, a4, just a5, and this pawn is going to be a weakness. Now, you know, infiltrating at b4 is going to be even more effective. So a4 just creates a weakness. You know, the black piece would already just be looking at it. So going back, I mean, knight e2, I think this is maybe where he messed up. He underestimated Aronian's response. Very simple, rook f5. And so knight e2, the obvious point was to play f4. But he can no longer do that. You know, the point was, let's say bishop here, then f4, and you can recapture the knight. And, you know, this would have been great for white. I mean, h4, white's got play here. You know, not too much to worry about at all. But instead, Aronian is too good. He just plays rook f5, and so now there's really no way, almost for the rest of the game, for white to play f4. And he's just constantly crippled with that weak f3 pawn. And, you know, his king is kind of stuck on the side there. And in the meantime, black has a couple of very easy plans to execute. I mean, one plan, you know, position everything correctly and push for e5. That's one idea. Another idea, push these queenside pawns, start making threats with that extra pawn. And the idea that Aronian chose in the game, rerouting the knight with a couple of accurate moves here to a very dangerous square on g6. So knight to g6, I mean, how easy is that? Just d7, f8 to g6, and there's no way for white to really stop it. You know, if you look at it, I mean, first knight d7 could be posturing for e5 as well as rook f5, but you know, really black is playing to limit white's counterplay, and then black is just slowly improving the placement of his pieces. So rook h1, I mean, what else can you do? It's kind of inevitable that the king side is going to fall now with this knight coming, and there's no way to stop it there. And you can see white's knight on e2 is just completely not doing anything. You know, so maybe if the knight was on e4, you know, you could go for e4. The problem is then that's going to open the bishop up. And white doesn't have a bishop to stop it on that diagonal. So that just kind of logically seems like it's going to be good for black, you know, that opening of that diagonal. So he tries for h4, just trying to open a file. And now, so knight g6, now f4. So Giri really trying to make these interesting with f4. You know, he's a fighter. I mean, he's a very resourceful, very creative player. But Aronian this was all preparation. I mean, the guy's used 15 minutes for the first 25 moves. You know, I mean, this is all prep, no doubt. So f4, and you know, Gary's trying to make some complications based on the fact that knight can't move. But you know, he sacks another pawn, and so now Gary's going to be getting the king out of there. So with f4, at least, you know, the real point of f4 was so the knight doesn't take, and then rook takes f3. So it's like he sacks one pawn to avoid losing two, something like that. You know, to avoid losing the more important pawn on f3. So now queen b4, and you know it's very clear what's happened. I mean, he's got two pawns. White has no coordination. I mean, look at his rook. All of his pieces are disconnected from each other. Whereas black, you know, they technically have the same number of pieces. I mean, it's just a bishop for a rook. And almost every single one of black's pieces is doing a great job. So Giri, you know, rook b1, he's got to defend this. And so now just bishop b8. Transfer the bishop here, win this b2 pawn, and march the pawn down. I mean, it seems pretty logical from Aronian. So the knight does go back to c3. Now queen back to e7. So maybe trying to defend a little bit, make sure everything's cool. Not going to be any tactics or anything like that. And so b4. So b4, I didn't really get it. I mean, I guess Gary was just trying to keep the queen out and, you know, not maybe just gain a little space. Like maybe he can try to play a4 then and at least have something constructive to do. And just rook f8. You know, so now rook f8. I mean, b4 makes sense, I guess, because Gary wanted to defend laterally on the second rank. So rook f8, just getting the bishop ready to come to another diagonal, and maybe the rook is going to be needed now to support the c pawn or something. So king e1. So Gary's making a run for it. You know, he's trying to get out of there, and now just knight check first. And so pawn takes. So even though the h file's open, there's really nothing that white is going to be able to do with it, maybe just a couple of checks. So he's got the couple of checks, and it does force queen f6. You know, if black isn't careful, whatever he does, a6, maybe he's going to get into a little bit of trouble here. But even still, I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe black could walk into a draw. But a6, you know, Aronian's too good for that. So he plays queen f6 so that if there's a check, his king just runs to a safe square. So moving forward, queen f6, and so king c1. So now, you know, black has got two pawns for the exchange. It's got the dominating bishop and knight, you know, controlling all these important squares around white's king. And so just bishop g6 first. Now rook d8. So pretty logical play. I mean, Aronian in this game, he doesn't waste half of a move here. I mean, every move has got a really important point. And so now he's just preparing e5. You know, just that simple. Just break that open, play d4, play c3. Couldn't be easier. So go ahead with e5. Now, Giri is trying to defend, but he's got a lot less time, and he's still got a couple of moves to make before the time control, and this is a very difficult position. So first Aronian takes, and so pawn takes. I guess if knight takes, this is what I'm thinking here. And you could take this, you know, based on this pass pawn, the strength of it, and black has got a good endgame. But I think he was going to play queen f5. And it seems like there's just so much pressure. Queen f5 or even queen f3. Queen f3, I mean, there's just so much pressure. It's crazy. I mean, maybe queen f5. Whatever white does, it almost doesn't seem to matter. And c3, because it's backed up by the rook. You know, rook c8 is backing it. So all the tactics in this position just flowing for white. Flowing for black, really. So pawn takes, and now rook e1, rook e8. So just, you know, seizing the e-file, maybe threatening, you know, rook e4 possibly. And so Giri goes for it. You know, queen d7, he's trying to tie this down and hit d5 as well. But Aronian is just too good. He plays c3. So drives the rook to this square. So now d5 is almost off limits because you're going to play bishop f7 maybe and skewer the rook. And knight to e1. And this is just too nuts. I mean, this is the real move from the game, knight e1. So first Aronian sacks the exchange. Now he sacks a rook. White takes it because he just can't allow knight to d3. It's going to be way too crazy. I mean, knight d3, let's say a check. It doesn't really seem to matter, this check. Maybe this check as well. And white is just busted. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I mean, white is completely busted. So, you know, he tried to just take the knight, and now Aronian tries to sack his queen. Very, very nice touch. You know, if knight takes, that leads to mate on the spot. And in the game, he tried king here, just queen to e4. Now this pressure combined with this threat, with this threat, with this threat, it's just too much. So here, Giri just resigned. After queen e4, I mean, that was enough. There's nothing he can do. I mean, he can't take. That leads to mate. What else can he do? I mean, there's no way to stop all of these different threats. You know, I mean, maybe he could sack his queen. But even still, the threats are kind of still there. I mean, maybe, yeah, I mean, they're definitely still there. The bishop's coming. It's just not going to work. So here, Giri just decided to throw in the towel. So Aronian, by drawing Rajabov today in something like 14 moves, he is taking clear first at the 2012 Tata Steel. So definitely a very nice, very well-played tournament by him. And we'll look forward to seeing him at some other super tournaments in 2012. So this is Will Stewart from OnlineChessLessons.net. And thanks for tuning in.